You're here to talk, to listen to us talk. Well, hopefully you also get an opportunity to talk as well about Horizon Europe funding opportunities in the aerospace sector. So I'm the UK national contact point for mobility. So mobility in this case means transport in every form. So not only the aviation and aerospace sectors, but I cover the maritime, rail, automotive, the lot. I'm not an expert in aerospace. I'm the expert in the Horizon Europe processes. If you want to talk about the aerospace specifics and the technical details, that's why we've got Chris on the call as well. So I'm the national contact point. What does that mean? That means I'm there to help you navigate through Horizon Europe. It appears to be a very complex programme. It's not really complex once you know, but then that's easy for me to say. I've been doing this for about 10 years and it's all I do. I do Horizon Europe day in, day out. It's my sole focus. So my role is to ensure that you aren't troubled by the process and the obstacles that you might feel that are there. So I'm there to help you succeed. I'm part of Innovate UK. I'm therefore a public servant. You've paid for me already. I'm not a contractor or a consultant, so you don't need to pay again. And like many of my colleagues in Horizon in Innovate UK have to be very neutral. You've probably worked with some of the guys at Innovate UK in the past. They're very neutral, unbiased. I'm not. I'm biased. I'm on our side. I'm not neutral. I'm on our side. My role is to get you the money any way I can. So I will help you understand the process. I will help you find the right competition. I will help guide you the right ways to build a network and a consortium, which I'm going to talk about later as well. I do it for transport. There's one of me in every other sector in the UK, and there's a link there. You can find us all. So there's one for energy, health, farming. Some of them that are relevant for you are the related industries like digital, materials and manufacturing processes. So if we need to talk to one of my colleagues, I can introduce you. I'm also in a team of me across Europe. So I know my counterparts in Italy, France, Germany, Spain very well as well. We're a team, and that's how we can help you build your networks in Europe by understanding the landscape across Europe. You'll get a chance to answer questions later on. Just a quick, I'm hoping most people are familiar now. They know what Horizon Europe is. There's been a lot of publicity about it. It's the world's largest research and and innovation programme, over £80 billion, £80,000 million, has to be allocated within a 7-year programme. Not necessarily all spent, as long as a project starts within that 7-year programme, that's fine. Some of the projects are 3-4 years and they'll go on till 2030 plus. But that's a little picture there of what Horizon Europe is. I'm going to blow it up. No, I missed the blow it up picture. I'll go back a second. The blowing up might be later. In the middle of those 3 pillars, pillar 2, you'll see there's a climate, energy and mobility cluster. So that's 15 billions of the 95 billion euro. So 80 billion pounds, 95 billion euro. So 15 of the 95 are in that climate, energy and mobility. And about 7 billions, so about £1 billion a year, comes into the transport sector. So we're going to help you find a way of getting your hands on at least $500,000 of that, you know. So the UK has associated to the programme. What does that mean? It means the UK government is now going to give the EU a substantial chunk of money every year so that the UK can take part in this programme on a level playing field with other European countries. And when I say other European countries, it's not just the EU. There are other associated countries. You might have expected, you know, Norway, Iceland, yes, they're associated too. Switzerland is not. They've chosen not to associate. Other countries further afield are associated. So Israel, Turkey, Tunisia, Canada. That's a bit like the Eurovision Song Contest. The definition of Europe is getting very stretchy. But this means that UK, you guys can take part in these competitions just the same, and you have the same chance of success as somebody from Germany, France, Italy, Spain, or anywhere else. You will be evaluated on the merit of the proposal. You're able to lead consortia as the the coordinator. If you're successful, you would be funded by the EU, not from UKRI, as has been happening to date. And you will be able to join the joint undertakings as well. UK organisations will also be classed as one of the minimum number required for a consortium, because you need to have at least 3 different organisations from 3 different eligible countries, and one has to be from an EU member state. But you could have a consortium with, I don't know, say 6 from the UK, 8 from Turkey, and 1 from Malta, and that would be an eligible consortium. It wouldn't necessarily win, but it'd be eligible. So why is the UK giving the EU our money, our taxpayers' money, for us to be able to do this? And it's really because international collaboration is very important, and Horizon Europe is a truly international programme. I mentioned that Canada have become associate countries, so has New Zealand. But actually any country in the world other than Russia and Belarus can get involved in projects in Horizon Europe. They just have to fund themselves. Sorry, there's a noise in the background. Could we make sure we're in mute, please? Thanks. So because we can get involved in this global programme, we get to be part of the organisations setting the direction of travel. We don't want to be going off down the Betamax route when everybody else is doing VHS. It's important that the UK, particularly in the aerospace sector, is fully part of that European and global sector. I'm quite fond of saying there is no such thing as a UK aerospace sector. There is only a European aerospace sector. No one country makes every part of an aeroplane, and it's not something we aspire to either. We do aspire to be part of that infrastructure, that ecosystem across Europe, and that's why it's important for us to be part of this programme. It funds an awful lot of aerospace and aviation research. We want to be part of those teams delivering that. I knew I had a bigger picture, so you can see where the 95.5 billion come from, and that's without the UK's contribution or without Turkey, Israel, Norway, etc. So all of those together, it's going to be a well over €100 billion programme, and my job is to try and help you find within that, 95,000 millions, where is your 1 or 2 million, your 500,000, your few tens of thousands even, but your bit is in there somewhere, and it's my job to help you find it and get hold of it. It's interesting and important to understand the structure. So we've got Horizon Europe. I showed you Horizon Europe, the big 95 billions, and I showed that there's these 3 pillars, and within the central pillar there are clusters. Now within the clusters there are things called destinations, and they could have just broken it up by saying sectors, because if you've got something called climate, energy and mobility, well, clearly mobility and energy are different, so you've got to break it out into these things, and they call them destinations because it's somewhere they want to get to. And then each of these destinations has calls for proposals, and then within a call for proposals there will be a number of topics. Topic is the word for competition in Horizon Europe. So whenever you hear people talking about a topic, it means something that has its own scope, it has its own budget, it has desired outcomes and impacts, and a consortium comes together to write a proposal against a topic. That's the level of competition. There's always a topic identifier, and it can look a bit confusing. So you see at the bottom there, that bottom bullet, it says Horizon-2024-CL5 D50101. It's actually just like a postcode. If you read it backwards, it says it's the first topic in the first call for proposals in Destination 5 of Cluster 5, Cluster 5 being climate, energy and mobility, in 2024 in the Horizon programme. So it demystifies it a little bit. It's not just an anonymous set of numbers. It's quite an intelligent little postcode system. I mentioned the destinations. These are the 6 destinations within this climate, energy and mobility Cluster 5. The bottom 2 are the transport ones. We've got clean and competitive solutions for all transport modes. So that's anything about greening of transport. So it can be reducing particulates and emissions, clearly addressing climate change impacts of transport and reducing those. So anything about the cleaning of the transport system. And then destination 6 is the safe, resilient and smart mobility. So it's everything about improving the transport system, which is not about specifically reducing emissions and cleaning it up. So it can be autonomous mobility, it can be the logistics, the infrastructure, the bridges, you know, the specifics around digitalisation of the transport network, the traffic lights even, everything that's not specifically about reducing emissions and cleaning the transport system comes into destination 6. What we're going to talk to you about today is within oh look, it's going purple, is if within destination 5 in particular there is some aerospace. There we go. So destination 5 has a open call for proposals right now, and Chris is going to take you through it in a little bit more detail in a moment, the aviation ones. This is called Clean and Competitive Solutions for All Transport Modes. And I mentioned a call has a number of topics. This call has 18 topics. Some of them are aviation, and Chris will talk about those in a moment. But each of those aviation topics has its own scope, its own budget, and its own deliverables. The deadline for submissions is 18th of April, so that's not a long time now. And this has been open since the 7th of December, and it's been published even longer. So there are some issues around how, you know, what sort of time frame we've got now, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well. There's 2 links on here. At the top, you can see a link to the entire work programme call in the Funding and Tender Opportunities portal. It's the EU's version of IFS, so you can see a link to the competition, and it'll have all 18 different topics, all has its own website. But because that can be quite difficult to read, I also give you a link there to the official work programme, which is PDF. And although it's a 540-page PDF, I've narrowed things down for you, pages 397 to 439. So just a few more than 40 pages to describe 200 million euros worth of work. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to say about that. Oh, there's my aviation coming up pink. And we'll come to this bit in a moment. I'll leave my sharing screen now, and we'll get Chris to talk about the topics in more detail.
Thank you very much, Louise. A good overview of Horizon Europe. So as trailed, I'm just going to share my screen now, which will come up with an overview of, firstly, the Destination 5 aviation topics and what the overall destination is trying to achieve, followed by the 4 projects. So as Louise trailed, this sits very much in a wider ecosystem of European activity. I'm sure many on the call will be aware of things like the Clean Aviation Joint Undertaking, the CESAR Joint Undertaking, Clean Hydrogen Partnership. These are all sort of working together, and particularly within Destination 5, the aviation topics here are more focused on the lower end TRL activities, not exclusively so, but in this respect, we'll go through the projects and you can sort of identify predominantly 3 of them are around the 2 to 4 TRL scope, so up to sort of laboratory testing level, and there are really strong links between wider activity that happens within clean aviation and the other programs which I've previously mentioned. So that is something to keep in mind. In terms of what the aviation topics are trying to do, so it's really around disruptive low TRL technologies that have the potential to lead to 30% reduction in fuel burn and CO2. So this is really focused on greening the sector. It's around the innovation that's going to really move the dial, and Europe is pushing on this in a very concerted effort, similarly to how the ambitions led by Clean Aviation are all about reducing the environmental impact on the sector. There is an essence of speed around these, so Europe generally wants to have solutions enter the market between 2035 and 2050. We're all aware of some of the significant challenges, and that's why there is such investment going into these. And some of those areas that are identified there around hybrid electric architectures, the new generation of ultra high efficient engines and systems, and advanced aerostructures are really at the sort of core of what we're trying to do. Slightly wider than some of the things that we focus particularly on in the UK, although not exclusively, is around the new technologies for significantly lower air pollution and noise, and also increased understanding and analysis of mitigation options of aviation, the non-CO2 effects. As you'll be aware, we have a series of work happening in the ATI to promote this, and this is something that is a very hot topic within Europe as well, as it is wider. Also, there is a strong focus around the uptake of sustainable aviation fuels, and that is including coordination with the EU member states and associated countries around the availability and production of those. And then also focus on selected breakthrough manufacturing and repair technologies. So looking at the life cycle of materials and manufacturing processes throughout to make sure that there is an efficient process that's going on through there, and you're not sort of adding extra on. So if I can change my slide, sorry, there we go. I'm going to present these slides, and as Louise said at the start, these will be made available after the event. So there is a lot of information on here. I don't expect you to read through it all now. Take some time to read through and peruse at your time. There are links within these presentation packs which will take you to some of the reference material that Louise mentioned within the work programme, and also the individual pages on Cordis. So the first topic, as I've just mentioned, is around non-CO2. So really studying the effects. This is the expected range between TRL 2 to 4. So validating that in a lab setting. Just a quick note on the phrasing of expected TRLs. Expected means is essentially that what they're expecting is not limited to. If you have a proposal which exceeds, so goes higher than TRL4, that does not mean it is invalid. It's just more or less what they're expecting. And in reality, you'll see by the scale of the funding that is often a big limiting factor to going beyond those TRL scales. But that is just something to be aware of. So there is 17 million euros available for this, and there is expected to be 4 projects. So roughly that's going to work out around between 4 million to 5 million euros available for each. It's an IRA, which means it's 100% funded. And the project should focus on the minimum of aviation non-CO2 emissions. There are sort of some guidance around this, so project results are expected to contribute to at least 3 of those set of outcomes there. So primarily around understanding the impact of aerosols on clouds and the contribution of aviation NOx emissions, the policy measures identified in the EASA study that is referenced at the bottom there, as well as the contribution of NOx emissions, of CO2 emissions and non-CO2 emissions. A detailed analysis of optimal relation between costs and climate, perform engine and gas and particle emissions characterizations, perform flight tests and demonstration and benefits of fuel burn trade-offs, particularly avoiding climate sensitive regions, performing hydrogen and aviation drop-in fuel research with an eye to reducing non-CO2 emissions, and then develop further real-time decision support software for airlines and air traffic management to predict the location and global warming impact of contrail and cirrus cloud formation. Now, it's important to note your key to success around these projects will be looking at studies that is already ongoing within EASA, but also within CESAR, who have been particularly active in this area, but also to consider synergies with Digital Skies. I do apologise if there's some background noise going on. There's not much I can do about it, so please just bear with me for now. With each of these fact sheets, I provided a list of related projects with some links, links to Cordis and also the project website. So just a very brief note on those, and Louise will take you through some of these very shortly. Cordis is the official European project directory, so that's a fact sheet of all the information you need to know, including descriptions of what the topics are about, partners involved, and all of the key information. But quite often during the reporting process, a lot of these projects also have their own individual websites, and I've provided some links where they are available there as well, so you can go in. As Louise will take you through later, there are real benefits to accessing these, such as giving direct access to important contacts who are related to the project. But just some of these to pick on, which are of particular relative importance there. So the first one, FP7 React to Climate. So this is a project which was funded through the previous framework called FP7. It's finished now, but involved a couple of UK entities, including Manchester University, the Met Office, University of Reading. It was managed by the DLR. And the key thing to note, some of the partners within these topics specifically around Europe are going to be involved in quite a few, and the DLR in Germany is one of them, as is ONERA in France, being another organisation who is involved in a fair few. César Fly to Meet, again in reference to a César funded project, was led by the DLR. Alarm there was led by the University of Madrid, but also involved UK partners from Satavia. Synoptic was a project run by SEMA in Italy, again with strong DLR involvement. And then the final one, as you can tell by the title, We Care, was a DLR project. All of these have been completed, and they are all related to some of the proposals that have been developed for this accelerating climate neutral aviation and minimizing non-CO2 emissions project. So if you're interested in this topic, it's worth having a read through these and familiarizing yourself with the partners, seeing who is involved and where you can pick up some of these conversations. As Louise mentioned, some of these programs that we're presenting will be well in train, and a lot of the consortia will be developed. So the opportunity to join can be limited in some respects, but we're not trying to discourage you from that. And where you think you have a viable solution or proposal to feed into this, we can try and help you navigate the right people to speak to and get you involved in a conversation about that. The second call is all around competitiveness and digital transformation in aviation, so advancing further composite aerostructures. So this is expected to develop advanced composite designs and manufacturing technologies that will contribute to the digital transformation. There is a strong emphasis on cost and sustainable manufacturing, as well as looking at the end-of-life solutions. So again, this is 16 million euros worth of grant available across 4 projects, and similarly to the previous project, the expected TRL is around 2 to 4 with 100% funding available. The projects funded under this call should focus on advancements in composite aerostructures and deliver new tools and processes to support the European aviation supply ecosystem. And you need to really hit 2 of those 4 points down there. So advanced composite technologies, emphasis on new designs, high volume sustainable manufacturing, sustainable and free toxic substances, recycling and circularity, and structures and safety, as well as looking at additive manufacturing of new generation composites, particularly for aerostructures and propulsion. Breakthrough technologies in coupled aerostructures and system propulsion integration, as well as cost competitive maintenance and repair of those composite structures, including the structural health monitoring. As mentioned, there is a strong focus with tying in with digital transformation. So advancements in physical and digital research infrastructures are important, as well as the aerostructures for all aircraft configurations, with emphasis on synergies within clean aviation and the strategic research innovation agenda, which is a document that Clean Aviation have drafted and sets out their roadmaps and vision for delivering on the partnership. There are some links here. I will only sort of briefly touch on the top one, which is a project which is currently being run through Clean Aviation. So this is the Faster H2. There is a link on Cordis there, which details the partners involved as that has been launched. But I really think the key for this proposal is to make sure you understand Clean Aviation's roadmaps, particularly around this area, and sort of engage with the what they're doing and some of the projects they've done. Faster H2 is a huge project. It's got over 34 partners. It's led by Airbus DLR. There are currently no UK partners within that, and I think this is an area where we really want to be more present and involved, because there's a lot of capability in the UK. So this is something that we need to sort of up our game for sure. And impact monitoring of EU and aviation for R&I. So essentially, this is building a series of projects to assess the impact of European funding projects across Europe. Again, it's an £8 million grant, but this is only funded for one project. Again, it's an RAA, and it's delivering a toolbox. This, in all honesty, is probably one of the more difficult projects to get involved in. We do know there is a consortium being led by DLR, which is fairly well advanced and does have at least one UK partner in. If you think you can contribute to this one, then please do get in touch and we'll see what we can do to open up those doors. But essentially what this is doing is creating a toolbox based on some previous programs that have been running through Europe, which have been funded by the European Union, and have created a series of assessment criteria to essentially do that and assess the environmental impact of the projects that are being funded. So this will include stuff like trade-off studies and looking at informing on the most cost-effective policy options available. As a sort of, should be where for everybody, there is a focus on beyond CO2 emissions and also looking at climate sensitive regions, as well as addressing the interdependencies between noise at the airport. I think, again, key to success, if there is some for this project, is around engagement with existing partners, as it is well defined. The DLR are leading it, but there is an opportunity for where somebody can provide real technical advancements to that ongoing conversation to get involved. So here it is. And sorry, my screen's stuck again. Some related projects here. So the top one is the technology evaluator that's been running through Clean Sky 2 and indeed is still running through Clean Aviation. So this is, again, an activity that's been run by the DLR in previous years, looking to evaluate the environmental impact of the technologies and really sort of look at the impact and manage that over the course of Clean Sky 2. And looking at how that has impacted on what was originally the ACARI environmental goals around CO2, NOx and noise. Pulsar was a project that was led by ANERA in France, looking at the aviation roadmap, R&I roadmap, and to provide recommendations on the environmental impact of noise emissions and climate local air quality. There's a link there to that, as well as Impact Monitor, which you could probably guess by the title of this call is strongly related, because that was what set up the holistic impact assessment framework and toolbox, and is being developed as a follow-on study within this. And then finally, Team Play, which is a tool suite for environmental and economic aviation modelling for policy analysis. Quite a mouthful, but that again creates the modelling framework, which has led into this program. There are also some other activities within clean aviation which are worth noting, especially around APAC, which is looking at the environmental impact of the regional aircraft that they're developing, and we can send another link around that as well. Finally, towards a flying testbed for European leadership in aviation. So again, this is one project that we're looking to fund. It's around 16 million euros. This is the one with the slightly higher expected TRL scope. And the focus of this study is to support a flying testbed that demonstrates technology well beyond anything that is currently being addressed in clean aviation. It needs to demonstrate an impact by 2050. And is really expected to address long-range solutions, so anything sort of north of 4,000 kilometers. The key to this is really around getting familiarized with what is happening with clean aviation, understanding how these solutions can differentiate from the work that's going on within that. And it's the projects looking to contribute the industry lead to transition away from climate neutrality and digital leadership. So expecting to deliver on the design concepts and validation of experimental aircraft that will test, validate, accelerate radical new technologies and aircraft configurations, as well as driving feasibility studies around targeted aircraft concepts and preliminary design reviews. There's also a focus on the technical roadmaps and demonstration of how your technology will go towards the flying test bed, and so that analysis needs to be quite robust. Such roadmaps will need to include gap analysis in terms of the technology infrastructures and relatable technology validation and certification, and provide preliminary implementation and execution plans for the targeted aircraft concepts. So finally, some links to related activities in here. I think the key one that you would need to be aware of is the RINGO, so research infrastructures, which was essentially what's driven this project, as it identified the need to have this capability and for the European Union to fund this activity. So that project there sets out some of the rationale. But also Cappadocia and Optics 2 are also good reference points. Again, have a look through the links, have a read through some of the previous material. It lists all of the partners that are involved, and definitely sort of reach out and get to build those networks, because that is going to be key to the success with all of these, as well as understanding what's happening within clean aviation and some of the other programs which I've mentioned. So they are the 4 projects. So I'm going to hand back to Louise, who will take you through some more information around actually how to make a success of this and getting to build your networks and understand.
Thanks, Chris. So just going to slideshow mode, just bear with me. So this is the most common question I'm asked is, how do I either join or build a winning consortium? And note the word winning. There's no point just putting a consortium together that ticks the boxes with eligibility. You want a winning consortium, clearly, otherwise you're just wasting your time and everybody else's. So when should you start this process? Well, ideally, year before last. So although that sounds like, oh, right, well, I might as well not bother then, it's not the end of the world. You may well be the missing piece in somebody's jigsaw right now. As Chris has said, that there are some mature consortia out there that we know of. However, if you've got a specific technology that an innovation, a solution to part of the problem that's being asked, then there may well be scope for us to get you into those teams. However, what I would say is don't start a brand new consortium building effort right now. That's going to be very challenging, and I would be amazed if you were successful. I suppose it's possible, and it is your time to spend if you wish to do that. But ideally, try to join an existing consortium now is really the only viable solution. So this work programme was published back in 2023, and that's one of the issues. So what we want to try and do as well is help you find the consortia that might be forming right now to join those, but also how to avoid being in the same situation next time round, doing that homework in advance. So there are lots of formal consortium building mechanisms. They're not all that useful. Some are useful, they're not always all that useful. When you go onto the participant portal where you find these calls for proposals published, these topics published, every topic has a partner search function, and you'll see that 30 or 40 different organisations have put a profile up there to say, we're interested in this topic, and you could engage with those and see whether any of those have got themselves into consortium, whether there's room for you too. You could also put your own profile up there and then be prepared to be bombarded with people offering to write your proposal for you for the small sum of €50,000. So I'm not saying don't use them, but I think they're limited utility, that the participant portal. And the same with the how to participate tab has a partner search function, and those are both on the EU's portal. The problem with those two systems is they're not curated. Nobody vets who puts up what. So this next one here, the brokerage tool, in particular the GreenNet one that I've got a link to there, that is curated. People are vetted, and that's curated by the national contact points. So me and my counterparts across Europe. When you join or try to join the GreenNet brokerage system, your application will not go through automatically. It will come to me if you're from the UK for approval. And I will look to make sure that you're not just a salesman, or you're not just a consultancy flogging bid writing expertise, and that you're a genuine, and that you're not trying to tick every box, that you can do everything, that you actually do make a sensible offer of technology or innovation. You can also see who else is on there once you've logged in and registered. Until you're registered, all you can see is a list of who's there. After you've registered and I've approved you, you'll be able to go in and interact with who's on there. So you'll be able to click on their profile and actually reach out to them and send them a message, set up a meeting, and they can to you as well. However, searching these formal building mechanisms is a bit like finding a needle in a needle stack. So what else could you do? Trying to move my slides on and they're not going. Why not? There we go, went far too many. So there is the the Enterprise Europe Network. Now the EEN in the UK is delivered by Innovate UK Edge, who happen to have been rebranded again, Innovate UK Business Growth now. But they're still the same organisation, and they are one of the EENs, because the Enterprise Europe Network is across Europe, and they are specifically about connecting people in this network, this Enterprise Europe Network. They don't just connect people for research projects, though. Primarily, they connect people for commercial reasons. So if you're looking for customers or suppliers of a particular system or solution, then the EEN can help you. And you can see I've got a couple of screenshots here of the sorts of things that they will guide you and help you find partners for. So you can have business offers and business requests as well as research and development requests. You can talk about, just use the EEN as a sales access, a portal. So it's not just about Horizon Europe. So it's worth particularly smaller businesses getting in touch with the Innovate UK Edge team and asking about access to the EEN network, the partnering opportunities, and they can help you through that. However, what you really want is a partners with a track record of success in Horizon Europe. That's your ideal, and this is where we turn to Cordis. Now I've got a slide here, but rather than just going through the slide, I want to actually show you live what happens. So I'm going to click on this and then probably have to come out of the presentation because you can't see that, can you? No, nothing's happening. Let me just escape from the presentation. Right, you can now see what Cordis looks like. Oops, it's gone. There it is. I was just trying to move. So Cordis, every single Horizon Europe, in fact, every single framework program has a page on here. what I've got in the link on the slide deck that you'll get is you'll see that I've already got the word aviation, because that's what the EU uses for aerospace as well as aviation. They just use the one word. And I've already said we only want to look at projects from Horizon Europe. And I've filtered for destination 5, which, as we know, is the clean transport destination for both 2021, 2022 and 2023. And when I search for those, and you've got this link, you will see that there are 32 projects that have been funded already. And each of these projects is listed here, and you can click on any one of these. I'll just pick one at random. What have we got here? We've got HOPE. They always have fancy acronyms. This is Hydrogen Optimized Multi-Fuel Propulsion System for Clean and Silent Aircraft. Sounds good. Okay, let's click on it and see what happens next. Tum-ti-tum, it will go through to, here we've got a description about the project. Propulsion system shrinks aviation's carbon footprint. We can expand a little bit more and read the objective. But this, what I'm really interested in is this right-hand side here. So we've got the, some technical, some administrative information. So they started about a year ago, this project, and they're going to go for 3 years in total. I think that works out. Or is that 4 years? My sums are not so good. And what we can see here is how much money the project is. Oh, it's coordinated by the Technical University of Delft in the Netherlands. That's interesting to know. So straight away we think, if we are interested in a project around hydrogen funded aircraft, we might want to talk to these guys, because they know how to write these proposals and win. Clearly, they're winning €3.5 million there. If I scroll down a little bit further, tum-ti-tum, lots of information. Who else is in this project? Oh, look at that. We've got Manchester Metropolitan University is doing this project as well. The red one is Technical University of Delft, and you can see there's some Chalmers University, Bauhaus Luftfahrt. Don't know who those guys are, and Ergon Research, and you think, great, so what? Let's scroll down a bit more. Now here we've got information about the coordinator, Technical University of Delft. They're getting 1.2 million. Oh, look, down here, we've got this button, contact the organisation. If I click on it, it's going to take me to this login screen, top right here. You can create your own login. I just type in my son's birthday. Hopefully none of you know that. There we go. And out we pop with, I'm now logged in. It's now bringing up two-factor authentication is soon going to be mandatory. Fine. It's got this stuff on the left, which is my personal profile and stuff like that. Let's get rid of that a moment. Oh, wrong button. Sorry, get rid of that there. Because what we've got now is we've got dear participant contact of the Technical University of Delft in Project Hope. And I can write a message. I can say, dear sir, stroke madam. I could say, hello. I could say, I see you are doing Project Hope. And I can write whatever I want in here. I can say to them, we're the world leading experts in hydrogen cryogenic material storage. You can write anything you like in there, and you can say, we'd like to talk to you about potentially working together in a future project, and you'd give them the topic, number and name that you're interested in. And then you tick this box, which I'm not going to do, otherwise it'll go off. You do a bit of anti-spam, and then your message will go directly to the person doing this project in that university, not just to some central admin office, because that's what the participant contact means. So using Cordis, I know lots of you will know about Cordis already, but using Cordis to directly contact the leaders of current projects. Everybody who's doing a project right now, and if I go back up here, this is just one, remember, called Hope. There were 33 projects. Was it 33? 32. Every single person doing a project now is thinking about their next project already. They are not saying, we've had enough money now, thank you, we don't need any more money. They're absolutely thinking about the next grant. So there are only 32 here. You could work out a standard text and just post it to all of them. It only works for the coordinators at the moment. For example, if I clicked on this one, Colossus, they always have fancy acronyms. If I were to scroll down, this one is, DLR. Now, we heard DLR mentioned quite a lot, be coordinated by DLR. So you can read more about it. And once again, we can contact the person doing this project in DLR, not just some central anonymous DLR office, the person doing this. Unfortunately, you used to be able to contact everybody else, and it looks like you can. It says on this Linköping's University, for example, contact the organisation. But when I click on that, unfortunately, at the moment, it just goes straight through to TomTom, yes, DLR again. So all you can do is contact the coordinator. But what we're trying to find for you is coordinators that know how to write proposals and win. And therefore, these 32 projects here have 32 coordinators who all know how to write a proposal and win. And so these are the people you should be engaging with. I'm going back to my slide deck now because I think I've chunted on about that for long enough. And when you get these slides, you'll see, that link to those 32 projects is there on the word Cordis. I've just explained. Whoops, went back one. This is the Colossus project. The first one shows you that contact the organisation button. So write them a note explaining what you want to do and how their participation would be a great idea and how you could help them win, because that's all they're all interested in at this first proposal writing stage, is winning the project. Delivering the project is the next headache, but getting into the winning team is your problem to start with. But the very best way to form a winning team is to work with people you know. So being an effective networker, much more useful than submitting a profile into a portal. Cordis is pretty good at finding people that are winners, but you've no guarantee they're going to work with you. Whereas being an effective networker, building your relationships with people in the systems across Europe is by far the best way to do this. If you don't know who these people are, well, you have to question whether you should be actually getting involved if you don't know them. Educate yourselves, get yourself known and get out there. So using LinkedIn to start with, using Cordis and contacting those guys. Join the relevant associations and networks. And a lot of these are now having working groups and things that are online, so it's a lot less costly to be part of those. And when you are in these virtual working groups, say hi when you join the virtual room. Ask questions, support others' opinions, and act as if you're already well known to everybody in the room. In the chat on this call today, I put in the chat, "Good morning, great to see so many old friends here." I put that in every single virtual room I ever join, whether I know these people or not. But all of a sudden now they think that they're the only ones I don't know and everybody else is familiar to me. So they treat you differently. They sort of a bit more welcoming. So absolutely, when you join a virtual room, behave as if you know everybody and say hi. Put your email address out there. It's only like giving somebody a business card. You want people to contact you. So, people are a bit protective about their email address. Oh, no, I might get spam. So if you get spam, it's not the end of the world. Don't click on dodgy links. But put your business card out there. Put your email address into the chats. You want to connect with people. You want to build your network. Be outgoing about things. Volunteer. So show thought leadership. Volunteer to be the ones that writes work papers and working papers, or review others. Provide information that you've said, "Oh, I saw this. I thought this might be relevant," and put a link into a paper you know of. Just show everybody in that network, in that virtual room, or in that organisation that you know what you're talking about. You're thought leaders. You're world leaders in this, and that they need you in their team. And without you in their team, they're not going to win. Here are some useful events and networks. Now, Clean Aviation have an annual forum next week. Unfortunately, it's oversubscribed. However, get on their mailing list. There's a link to the Clean Aviation there. Get on their mailing list and you can get into a future event, hopefully. One of the things that we've been doing within Innovate UK with the KTN is travel grants for SMEs to some of these events. If there is an event across Europe and you're an SME and you would want to go to this event, let me know and I will see whether we can get travel grants for that. So another thing you might want to think about is attending the transport research arena. Now, we did have travel grants available for that. We've had to close them because their early bird rate closed in mid-February. So, but still, if you can get yourself to Transport Research Arena, the European Commission and Clean Aviation will be there, as will I, as will Chris, and lots of others. There are some European organisations for mingling, for building your relationships. So there is the Aeronautics Science Network, primarily for the academic community, European research establishments in aeronautics, which is more for your RTOs, your research and technology organisations. And then there's a CARE, which does have non-industrial participation, but is primarily an industrially participated body. So these are the three different sorts of networks that come together, and they will publish white papers on the future of hydrogen in aerospace, or EV, electric charging, or aerodynamics, or composite structures. Or they will be the guys who the European Commission turn to for guidance as to what to put in next year's competitions, because they don't dream it up out of nowhere. They recognise they're a bunch of civil servants, and so they turn to these organisations for their input into next year's competitions. So getting involved in these organisations can help you both with your networking for future consortium forming, but also you get a voice in the future competitions. Right now is the time when they're starting to think about next year's competitions. So it's ideally now is when you should be involved in getting engaged with these guys. So in summary, UK is a Horizon Europe associated country, which means that everybody, all legal entities from the UK are fully eligible to apply for funding, and if successful, get that funding from the EU for all aviation research and innovation projects. There's absolutely no prohibition, no exclusions whatsoever in the aviation sector. There are a couple in space and quantum, if we can talk about outside of this if you wish to. Remember, people you already know make the best partners. So if you don't know anybody, step up your networking game. The EU publishes everything you need to know to apply for funding and being successful. Finding it can be a challenge. We know that. That's why I'm here. I do look forward to hearing from you. There is an email you can subscribe to. So if you click on that bottom link there, when you get the slides, or you take a screenshot now, you can subscribe to my newsletter. I don't send things out without good cause. I just send an email when there's something interesting to say. You can follow me on what was Twitter. I'd like to get to double figures. And that's another email address that if I get hit by a bus, that email address will actually be answered, whereas my personal one clearly will. I will go to some questions now, I think. Thanks.
Thank you, Louise. Are there any questions around the table? I think we've got 5 minutes to answer a few. And of course, we can take any offline if you've got any questions that you don't want to post in the public forum. I mean, I will say, I hope this has been a useful webinar. I appreciate there are some difficulties given the timing of it. One thing that Louise and I have agreed to do is be continually active in this space, as Louise is naturally. But in the future, we'll be looking at some information days and other activities that help support and build your networks, as well as help get on the front foot with some of this. And we are more than happy to try and provide introductions to various people, particularly at ATI. We've been working strongly over the past couple of years to build relationships with the DLR, with ONERA, with some of these institutions that you'll see continually popping up. And obviously Louise and colleagues in Innovate UK already have a very extensive network. So between us, we are very capable of opening some doors.
Yes, one of the things, because Innovate UK are having a stand at TRA, I mentioned this big Transport Research Arena conference, if you were to send me one page of in MS Word format, one-page document, setting out your stall with an email address that people can contact you, and creating a bit of a catalogue to take along that people can do a word search from. So as long as you've got some information about yourselves, your organisation, your capabilities, your technologies, and an email address that people can contact you, I will add that to my, I'm calling it an Argos catalogue, and take it along to our Innovate UK stall so that people can come along and search and hopefully find you. Do make sure it's MS Word though, because I don't know how to stick PDFs together.
Thank you. I'm just looking through the chat. Lots of nice comments. So thank you very much. I'm glad this has been helpful. Ian, you've posted a question there as well as the links provided. If you email us, do you know organisations who are putting consortia together we can join with? The answer is definitely send that email. Yes, we do know people and contacts who are forming consortia at the moment, particularly in relation to these calls. We can definitely open up a conversation, but again, just with that sort of level of expectations that, you know, some of these are fairly well established. It needs to be sort of managed. You need to provide a very clear and concise rationale and expertise for joining.
Yeah, why should they include you in their consortium at this late stage? We clearly can't give you their contact details because it's commercially confidential, but we can potentially forward to them something you send us that says, you know, exactly why they need to have you in their team, or they won't win.
Yeah, perfect. And one more question that's come in. So will future Horizon calls, so from 2025 onwards, follow a similar timeline as this year's call?
Not really, no. Because of the disruption due to European elections, so they've got European elections in June this year, and then there will be a new appointment of the European Commission this autumn. And the European commissioners, when they come in, they know that you get one in charge of each of the departments, if you like. They're a bit like our secretaries of state. They come in and they quite often have their own views. And so the 2025 work programme won't be published until the new commission is in place, in case they come in and say, no, we don't want any aviation research, it's got to be all maritime. They're not going to say that, but you know what I mean. So they're not going to publish the work programme until early 2025. So we will get a little bit more time, probably. It won't be at this time next year. We won't be on the last minute. I believe there is going to be some form of consultation, though. So about the April time, we're expecting something called the Strategic Orientations paper for each of the clusters to be published, and the European Commission to seek feedback. And this strategic orientations is a bit motherhood and apple pie. It'll be a bit saying we must tackle climate change and digitisation, but it will actually go down to, and here's a section on aviation that we think are the priorities for next year. And that will be an open public consultation. If you sign up to my newsletter or you follow the ATI, we will let you know when that is published. And so your views and an opportunity to, you know, if half the world comes back and said, you're not doing enough on hydrogen, then they're going to listen. So it's that sort of thing, really. They're not going to listen to individual fringe views, you know, they're not going to come out and say, yes, we'll scrap it all and put in Hyperloop because Joe Blogg said so. But if there's a swell of people with a similar view, they will take that into account.
Perfect, excellent. So I think that's the last of the questions. So we'll draw this to a close. As I say, you will receive the presentation material with all of the links included very shortly. And please do keep in touch. As I say, you know, we are very interested in supporting this activity. Naturally, you know, we want to make a success of this, and absolutely where we can, we will help with the current calls as well. We'll also be in touch about those future activities as well. We'd very much like the opportunity to invite you to those in the future when we have some more firmed up dates and so on. So with that said, thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much to Louise. Very helpful. Hope this has been useful, and look forward to wishing success in your future endeavours into Europe.
And great to see people putting their emails in. It's good. Yes, these are the people you want to talk to. You're allowed more than one UK partner in a team. You know, some of the guys here might know what they're talking about. They might not all be as naive and new to it all as you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.